that flame that you have inside, like any flame, like any candle, you put a candle out and you just leave it, it's going to dwindle sometimes. It doesn't go out though.
For anyone who's dealing with mental health issues, you got to recognize that your mind and your body that you were blessed to have, it's not supposed to be your enemy. My mental health was at a decline. And what's crazy about it is that I wasn't even aware of it. It's all about the story you're telling yourself. Man, with everything going on in today's society, mental health is a big issue. It's something that a lot of people are talking about, and a lot of people are experiencing a decline in their mental health. We are grateful that we have the honor and privilege to speak to our audience. And one of our subscribers left a comment speaking about mental health and requesting, actually, let me read it. I would like a post on mental health in young people and adults. How does this affect success? And I think that it's powerful. Number one, thank you at Crossroads for the comment. I think that's a powerful question, something that we definitely should address.
Absolutely.
Right? I would like to first address the fact that we don't consider your financial status success alone. It could include it and be a byproduct of it, but we adopted Earl Nightingale definition of success, which is a progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And there's a lot of people who have a lot of money and a lot of mental issues. So we don't define success as that. Again, it could include it. So with that being said, we're going to talk about mental health and success.
If you are struggling with mental health and you feel as if you need someone to talk to, this is just a disclaimer. Definitely reach out. I know oftentimes as people, we're not even going to generalize it by gender or anything like that, but as people, we are burdened by failures. We are burdened by seeing other people succeed. Because right now, you know, the whole world is pretty much at the palm of your hands when you're on the cell phone. And if you're trying and aiming for certain goals and you can't, and then you see on social media that it seems like everybody else is succeeding, you know, sometimes it might do that inner doubt and it may make you feel depressed, you know. So if you are at that stage, one, understand that a lot of the things that you see on social media is a facade. Not all of it is real. But two, also don't take it lightly. Speak to somebody professional. Speak to a therapist. Speak to whomever. You know, don't stop here with this podcast or any others. You know, make sure you get down to the root of the problem. Okay? I just wanted to share that before we dive into mental health and success.
Indeed. And, you know, I want to clarify that there are differences. There are people who have chemical imbalances, right? And so for those people, continue to do whatever your doctor says, first and foremost. So let's talk about it, right? And when I speak about mental health, I'm coming from a place of not only studying and my expertise in NLP, but also just my experience, because I've dealt with some mental health issues myself, you know, just being a man and dealing with challenging things. So I want to break it up a little bit, right? Because that's how I like to define things. Let's start with the word mental. So what does mental really mean? Mental is your perspective, your personality, your attitude, your view on life, right? All of these things are part of your mental paradigm. What you tell yourself, the voice in your head, right? Anything you want to add on?
No, please continue.
Okay. And so that's dealing with the mental. I mean, and you could define it for yourself. You could look it up. And health. So when something is healthy, What is it, right? How do we define that? Let's keep it super simple and basic. If something is healthy, it's working the way it's supposed to work. It's in good standing, right? It's strong. It's not causing any pain. So if you look at mental health, that means that your mind, you are working the way you're supposed to work. You're working optimal, and or you're not bringing any pain, right? Any pain. If something is unhealthy, it's out of order. It's causing discomfort or dis-ease, all right? You're not in a peaceful state. According to NLP, right, when an outside external event happens, we perceive it, right, in our mind, and it goes through these filters. There's your attitude, your decisions that you've made, your memory, person, like your place and time. Like, for example, if something happens in the morning opposed to at night. So there's certain, your values and beliefs. That's a big one. That's your values and beliefs. So when an external thing happens, it goes through these filters in our mind, right? How we perceive it. Then what happens, it goes through 3 more stages. We then delete, distort, and generalize the information that's coming in or the event that's coming in based on those filters. Now, to give like a simple basic example, if your belief system is that of a racist, then if you see a black person doing a particular thing, right, your belief system is going to tie that event or that individual with that belief system, right? If you're a man, like for example, in my life, right, I always joke with my wife how, it's a joke in my house, I should say. When we first met, I didn't like to hold hands because I felt like holding hands was for suckers. But she's a woman, right? So my beliefs, that was my part of my belief system at the time. So the act, holding hands, which is a neutral thing, I perceived it as being a sucker, right? And so you see how our perception can transform something. So after it goes through these filters, it gets deleted, distorted, and generalized. What happens is we then get an internal representation of the event or the thing. That internal representation causes a state, and that state causes a physiological response, which then motivates a behavior, right? So all of that to say this, that when things happen, we have the power to narrate to ourselves or give things that are happening a certain meaning based on how we view the thing. And it's important to understand that you may be missing some information because of your belief system. I'll give you another one, memory, right? So if you were in a relationship that was traumatic, right? That's part of your filters. And you meet a man, and the man may do something or the woman may do something that may trigger a memory. You're now labeling the act, right? Based on the memory, based on the traumatic thing, opposed to the present situation. So what does this have to do with mental health? I find that a lot of things that we give negative meaning to, we are able to transform and alter the meaning of those things if we just transform the belief about the thing, right? So I'm being super vague because I want you to really understand that these are tools that we could look into. And it's just about really transforming ourselves, starting with our values and belief systems. So I wanted to start with that.
No. So I definitely can understand, just how you're saying the breakdown of how it's internalized and the perspective and I guess the outcome from the internalization of past traumas and everything else. So what I kind of would want to ask you then, So for someone that is seeking success, part of success is failure.
Right.
What is something that they're able to do to stay mentally strong during those times of tribulation?
That's a great one, right? And I've definitely have experienced a lot of failure, which comes with lessons. And I've said this before. A lot of people are scared of that word, failure, right? I'm not, afraid to say it or even say, no, there's no such thing as failure. It's just a lesson. And I understand why people say that, right? But we're just using it in the sense of I had an aim or I had an intention and I didn't meet that intention, correct? Is that how you define failure?
Yes.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yes.
Great. So what I would say is understanding that it's a part of the process. That's just it. It's a part of the process. And also study other successful people. And the way I do that is, number one, real people in my life that I consider successful, right? Because this is the thing, and I won't go on a tangent about that. But remember, like for me, someone who's a millionaire but doesn't have a relationship with his children, I don't consider that person successful. So when I talk about the successful people in my life, I have my own definition of what I think successful is. Okay. So
I don't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah,
I think you
sure.
made a good, valid point that I want to highlight, because that can kind of help with somebody that is struggling. Whose definition of success are you really chasing? Are you really chasing your definition of success, or is the things that you're sacrificing to receive what you want to receive and be deemed successful something that you truly desire? Because there's an unfulfilled part of that as well. Like how rough would it be if you spend so many years chasing something, finally getting it, and then still not feel like you're fulfilled? And that, in many ways, I could imagine for someone, that's seeking success and puts their validation in success to reach something that they thought would make them feel good and then still feel empty inside. I think that would magnify the person's mental health in a negative way.
absolutely, because you're like, yo, I got the thing.
And I'm still not.
And I'm still not.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll definitely touch on that. So to answer your question, I would say, number one, right, study the successful people in your life. And in order to study the successful people in your life, you got to be clear what success is to you. And you started this, podcast episode talking about social media and whatnot. And a lot of people are not really, how do I say, they're unclear on what success is, and they're allowing external factors define success for them. So you have to be clear on what success is, study successful people, and I say listen to or read autobiographies and biographies of whoever it is that you admire and look up to, because you'll see that there's challenges, there's struggles, there's stress, there's ups and downs. All of that is a part of the progress. So you're like, okay, it's not just me. Because I think a lot of times we internalize things and we make things personal. And a part of it is personal because you got to see okay, it's feedback. So it's like, what do I have to do? What do I have to shift? Or like Lewis, our producer, says, how can I pivot? So all of that is just feedback. And so I would say that's one thing. Number two is you have to be really clear on your purpose, right? And that's important because if you're not clear on what your purpose is, then you'll be dragged in all different types of directions. So if your purpose is, let's say, to have more time with your family, right? If that's your purpose and that's why you're doing what you're doing, and you find yourself actually having less time with your family because of what you're doing, then you got to pause and say, okay, wait a minute, I'm off track here. Now, however, understand this, that in the process of things, that may be a part of the process, especially in the early stages of anything where it takes more energy and time and resources to launch things off the ground, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Right. So I would just say, number one, study successful people, like real successful people, not these fake people, like real successful people who got it out the mud. And you'll see that what you're going through is a part of the process. And something that I've done, not only as a successful person, but just as a man in general, is accept the fact that life is just tough. And I think that some people look at that as a pessimistic view on life. Mm-hmm. It may be, according to you. But for me, what it is just understanding that it's just going to knock me down sometimes. It's going to hit me with body shots sometimes. And you got to understand, I'm in my mid-40s. So I lived long enough, and I'm still a baby on the planet, but I lived long enough to go through some things in life to understand that things just happen.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say that, studying success and accepting what comes with it. And the other thing is, too, I've created a very an environment that supports my growth, that supports my success. I spend and invest my time with people who are about success, people who are aligned with my values and beliefs. Not to say we have to agree and do the same things. No, not that. But these are people who are on to something. They're moving. And I'm moving too. And so we may be moving towards different things, but we're moving. And so we feed off each other. One thing that I learned is spend your time with 3 types of people. People who are above you in whatever, field that you're in. Because those people, they provide lessons. You learn from them. You get motivated by them, right? And then people on your level, these are your peers. They're in the trenches with you. Those people you exchange battle stories with. You hold each other accountable. You help each other patch each other's wounds and support each other, right? You exchange ideas. And people who are below you, and I mean below you, I don't mean like better than you. I mean that you're better than them. They're just, they're just like not as far in the journey. And so those people, you give back, you contribute, you pour into them, and you also get reminded of where you used to be. Right. So I just created a universe, the books I read, even some of the music I listen to, my house, the positive sayings in my house, my wife. You understand? I've created a universe, a small universe in my life that is very supportive towards success also. And it's not an overnight thing. This is a process of refinement, going through things, cutting off people. Yeah, understand? And when I mean cutting off, again, doesn't mean I'm better or I'm good and they're bad. It just means that we're not fit for each other. Friendships and intimate relationships and so on. Business partners and everything. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
Yeah, no, that's good. For me, just as an entrepreneur, mm-hmm. and being kind of like just paid solely commission based off of sales, we go through a lot of roller coasters, and sometimes it can be stressful. Sometimes you have to put extra long hours in and still not be rewarded at the end of the day. How I kind of cope with just the mental up and downs, mm-hmm. right, and fortify my mind is one, as you mentioned, like the books that you read, the motivational stuff, just
what you're consuming, right?
Consuming positive things to fight back that doubt that's going in my mind at that time, because they're gonna instill in me that fearlessness. It's already inside of me. That flame that you have inside, like any flame, like any candle. You put a candle now and you just leave it. It's going to dwindle sometimes. It doesn't go out though.
Right.
It just needs something exterior to reignite it. Sometimes we as people need that. And if you're in a position where you're starting to feel doubtful, you're starting to just feel small in comparison to the large world that we have, put those positive things into your mind. That's one thing that I do. Something else, which I haven't done in a while, but when I do it, it feels amazing, is giving back. When you're not doing well, there's so many people that are doing so much more worse than you. So do what you can to give back.
Yeah, that's a powerful point, to lose your thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because what that does too is, for that moment, you are taking the attention away from yourself.
Yes, exactly.
And giving it to others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be in a large scale. You're fixing yourself lunch for work, fix a couple of extra sandwiches that you're just going to give out. You see somebody on the street, that's, someone that's homeless. Hey, I got this for you. Give them a sandwich and a water. And
it's also,
see the gratitude.
Right.
You'll feel better. You'll feel better. Your spirits will be lifted.
It's also a reminder that it could be worse.
Always can be worse. It can be better, but it could always be worse.
Right. And, speaking about gratitude, I personally have an exercise that I do every night. So I'll tell you about it. So because I have goals, because I live a purposeful life, remember, I am very clear on my purpose. And if I'm clear on my purpose, I'm clear on my goals. So every night what I do is I have the top part of my journal where I write down how or what did I do to invest in what I call buckets, my drops of buckets, right? So I want to be clear, like, okay, this is how I invested my time. This is what I did. So it's a reminder to myself, like, okay, I'm taking action. I'm in motion, even when it seems like nothing is happening, but I'm taking action. So I write that down. Then I write 5 to 7, no less than 5, around 7, things that I'm grateful for, And so what that reminds me of is like, wow, that puts my mind in a positive state. So again, when things are happening, things are rough, things are not working out the way you want them to. However, you know what? I had a plate of food today. I had heat today. I had clothes. Wow, my friend did this. Whatever it is, I have a car. It may not be the car that I want. However, I have a car. So that puts you in a state of gratitude, which puts you in a positive state. Again, right? Because you're dealing with a negative state and a positive state. So, and then I have what's called the highlight. The highlight of my day is just something that I appreciated about the day. It could be like, for example, last night was just working on a short at the library. That was the highlight of my day. Just being creative and in a creative spirit, And then under that, I put the lesson of the day. So what did I learn? And it doesn't have to be anything deep. Lewis taught me how to add music to a video. That was something that I learned. So for me, that's important because it's about my purpose, right? What am I doing? What am I grateful for? That highlight, what did I learn? All of those things are important to me. So for anyone who's dealing with mental health, mental health issues, right? You got to recognize that your mind and your body that you were blessed to have, it's not supposed to be your enemy. And when you're dealing with mental health issues, again, we're not talking about people with chemical imbalances. We're talking about people who are perceiving life a certain way. Your mind is supposed to be a tool. It's not supposed to work against you. The voice in your head that you have, that voice is supposed to empower you, not disempower you. I'm not telling you what to do because, again, you define success for yourself. But understand that it's supposed to be treated with respect. It's supposed to bring you joy. It's supposed to work optimal. So that's one thing to understand. If your mind and body are not operating in an optimal way, then you have the power to transform that so that it can work in an optimal way for you. And the key word in the word health is heal. And it starts off with healing. And I wouldn't do this on my own. I don't do this on my own. I say I am so blessed that I have people in my life. That's one thing. That's another thing that I suggest. If you're dealing with mental health issues, don't, the brother mentioned it too. Don't try to do it on your own, whether it's seeking a professional help or your friends and family. And if you feel like none of those people are qualified or can help you, then, seek outside of that and do the work to find some people. Every Sunday at 11 a.m., I work out with a great group of men, positive. Sometimes women show up too. And for me, it's not even about the workout. Monday through Friday is about the workout for me. It's really about the camaraderie and the positive energy and motivating each other. It's just like, a boost of positive energy. So I say to you too, like, what activities can you find to put yourself in the positive spaces? If you find, like, even on your timeline, a lot of people on their phones and stuff, if your timeline is toxic, man, unfollow those people. Find positive people. There's a lot out there. Trust me. And you're not alone.
Yeah. You shared a great tidbit with that as well. Finding a stress reliever, whether it be exercise, whether it be yoga, whether it be reading, whether it be walking in the park. Find something that you could do to just free your mind for a little bit and be present at what you're doing at that moment. Right. I think that's another thing, because if you decide to do yoga or meditate, but you're using that time just to focus on your problems and not being present in what you're doing, you're not doing yourself the service. So find ways to take your mind off of the negative aspects of what you're going through, and whatever that hobby is, just indulge in it. Whenever you're starting to feel like, all right, I need to take my mind off of things, find something healthy to do, and have the dual effect of building your mental health while also building your physical health as well.
And it takes time to find your thing. Like, for me, I like taking walks in nature. I there's certain people that I listen to that just really lift up my mood. So you have to, if you don't know, just know that with time and doing some self-discovery and research on what works for you, because what works for you may not work for me, and what works for me may not work for you. You understand? So I think it's important to understand that it's a process. I would say maybe about 2 years ago, my mental health was at a decline. And what's crazy about it is that I wasn't even aware of it. And my wife actually was pointing it out to me. Around that time, I spoke about it in another episode. I was just really working. I was working and, making a lot of money, but I just wasn't happy. And also, too, I've made some choices in life, and that I won't share because it involves other people, that I didn't want to make. However, because I wanted, to please, I also had a negative outlook based on those choices. And I couldn't blame anyone but myself, because I'm the one that made the choices because I wanted to people please. So again, it's about really reflecting on what's important to you. And listen, you might be where you are now, just like where I was, and understanding that those choices were already made and you can't take those choices back. So that's another part of healing, just acceptance. You know what? At the time, I thought pleasing this person or making this choice was the best thing. And it wasn't, for whatever it is. Sometimes just accepting that, just acceptance and moving on. And understand that it's about the story that we tell ourselves. A lot of the major issues that we have, it's because of the story that we're telling ourselves about our life or about our circumstances. you could tell yourself like, man, oh, this is all a part of it. Wait till I bounce back. Yeah. It's all about the victory instead of, moping and being negative about what's happening. What about the victory story? Understanding that this is just a transition in time. You can bounce back. You will bounce back if you put the work in. And listen, some things, your credit might be hurting right now. Your bank account may be on triple slim right now, but you could bounce back. And man, just imagine the amazing story when you change things around for the better. You could really talk from a place of power because you've been through it. You struggled. And I think that we need to bring back the essence of celebrating struggle. Celebrating the fact that, man, we have the power, we can overcome and bring the challenges on. When you, like, for example, an MMA fighter or a boxer or a wrestler, they want the best challenger because the best challenger will bring out the best attributes out of them. And so that's how we need to view life. When you're challenged, when you're feeling stressed, when you're being tested, you say, oh, yeah, let's get it. Or I'll show you. Because the truth is, you really don't know who you are until you've been tested. I come from the streets. A lot of people act tough and talk tough until it's that time to show and prove. And then you really see who they are. So that's a metaphor, right? What am I saying about the streets? What I'm saying is when you're challenged, that's when you get to prove. So, yeah, man, change the story. Change the story, and it's all in your head. You could change the story. You can manifest with your words. So that's what I say, too, about mental health. It's all about the story you're telling yourself. This is not a negative event. This is an event that's going to make me better. And if like I do simple things. Like if I'm in traffic, I say, well, I did the best that I can to get there. What can I do? That's another thing, right? Anything that's outside of your control, why you getting all, emotionally invested in that? There's nothing you could do about it. And so what I say is, man, I hope that whatever issues that causes traffic, I hope, the person is all right. Sometimes we get caught up, and I'm a punctual person, about being somewhere on time, but, somebody just had an accident. Mm-hmm. So I just, I think about that, and I just make the best out of life. Really strive to make the best out of all the situations that you have. It's raining. You have plans to go outside. Great. Now you can spend some time inside doing some of the things that you have plans to do inside. Take a break. I mean, there's just so much. It's just about the story. You could say, oh, man, when people say, wow, such an ugly day. Why? It's raining. That's not an ugly day for me. I think it's a good thing that it's raining. You know what I mean? Nature needs it, obviously. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's how I see it.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, in short, we just want to, number one, thank you for having that comment, bringing that discussion to the podcast. Thank you for, as you see, we're reading the comments, and we're a family all together, the viewers, everyone. So please continue to share. Please continue to comment. And we see it, we respond. And if it's something that, that is in your mind and in your hearts that you want to see us talk on, please let us know. All right? Much appreciated.
Let's get it.
Peace.
Peace.